I think it's fine, but like I think we have no standard actual moral obligation to like uphold it.
So we don't have a moral obligation to uphold like laws.
I mean, the moral. I mean, I I think we do have a moral obligation to like set up laws, etc. I think that like that's a country's right, but like if we're talking about a individual person, a rel- a regular person has no moral obligation to like
Yeah.
uphold the
Trump
Constitution.
isn't a regular person.
Um, Still like Trump like as a person, I think he has no moral obligation to like
He's
uphold.
literally the person who's in charge of enforcing the law, so it is quite literally his job to uphold the Constitution.
I mean, you can like still have a job but not have a moral obligation to like to like do some sort of like the job.
It's a police officer's moral obligation to enforce the law.
It's like police officers because they took an oath.
No, it's because it's their job.
So like so
If
you
we
were
think
saying that they.
if P1 is we ought if P1 is like we ought enforce like laws that we think are moral, and P2 is that like I don't know, these like people are the ones who are like law enforcement, these certain people in positions who are then like tasked with doing that, and like the conclusion is that these people ought to enforce the law.
I
They
would
quite
just
literally
like
have a moral obligation. Yeah,
I would
these
just
officers have moral
ask
obligations to enforce the law.
I would just ask you about P1. Like I would just need the argument for like ought claims itself existing.
Huh? You don't think
I would
ought
just
claims exist?
right now um in my like ward view, I think ought claims exist, but but like I want to know if you can prove in your ward view if like ought claims exist.
What is an ought claim? What that means?
What is a ought claim? Like a ought claim is just like it's just like a ought claim is just saying that like you like it is just a claim saying that like you should do something based on like multiple
Because
standards,
yeah,
ethical
because doing
standards.
that thing is good according to a moral
Yes,
system.
like it is good, or like with a Trinitarian, like they would
Or
say like we ought to do
opposite,
something.
or we ought not
We
to do it because it would be bad to do the action.
Yeah,
There's just certain moral claims. I don't whether uh, oughts are just like ascribing things. I don't, you're not like making a claim whether that ought is like an objective statement though.
I think that you could make an argument for some ought claims being objective.
I'm not. I don't believe that. I'm agnostic on if morals are objective or subjective. So making a
You
claim that
should
they are.
like look into moral realism.
Yeah. But yeah, Trump not upholding like the unless like a laws enforcement of law is going to be like super detrimental to society. Laws should be enforced. Um, Donald Trump isn't upholding the existing law. He's going against it, so that'd be like morally bad.
That would be morally bad.
Yes.
What's your like? What does your moral framework look like?
Just like really utilitarianism. So like generally have is like laws that don't cause significant reductions to well-being for society should be enforced. Constitution doesn't cause significant like reduction to well-being society. I think it generally does the opposite. Therefore, it should be enforced. Donald Trump's not enforcing it. Therefore, he's breaking one of the rules.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, my moral framework, yeah, like it's just like gonna be a like basic Catholicism framework. Like it is like just going to be like the moral framework is just going to be whatever the Christian God says. Like like is good, and like if you like disfollow his rules, etc., then it is bad.
Does Christian God say that like laws should be enforced in the society you exist in?
Um, and the Christian in the Bible it says that God instituted borders and laws.
Were you getting bored?
I've been bored. What's up?
Oh, what up? So you were gonna say how Trump is not upholding the law, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. What example does Scratch have today?
Plenty of examples. Not upholding the First Amendment, like that's the big thing recently.
Like what?
AUPV, Marco Rubio, court determination he's
Not
violating the.
wait, no. Let's come on, bro. You know we should stick to one at a time. The
In
First Amendment.
AAUPV, Marco Rubio, the court determined that Donald Trump was violating the First Amendment rights of legal immigrants here on student and temporary work visas who were professors for expressing pro-Palestinian speech.
The Supreme Court.
This Trump administration did not appeal it up to a higher court. The time for that 60-day deadline to appeal it passed. So now that is the judgment
Oh.
of the courts, and so now they're just looking what is the remedy for those people is going to
So
be.
now you're saying not based completely off the merits of the Supreme Court. He didn't get to. You're saying that they're saying he didn't respond in time.
They decided not to appeal it.
I think they're waiting for the Alien Enemies Act to be
The
decided
Alien
on.
Enemies Act has nothing to do with this case.
Well, yeah, because you know that under 8 USC 1158, it's at the Secretary of State's discretion. So under the Alien Enemies Act, that will definitely
1158 is asylum. I'm saying that.
Yeah, these people are here. It doesn't matter. We can
We're
go
not
into
talking about
11
asylum people here on Steve either. This is
1033.
okay.
We can go into 1033 then.
You're just saying things.
Yeah,
You're not engaging.
yeah, 1033. We can
So,
still go into that.
the-
We
the
can
question-
talk
the
about
question would
all
be-
of the things that fall under the Secretary of State's discretion, whether he's going to pull someone's visa or not.
The question would be is if a district court makes a ruling on something and the administration decides not to appeal that, right? Then that ruling becomes binding. And then the only thing left there is to seek the remedy.
Technically, he's not really in violation of the Constitution until the higher courts say so, because he can continue to do things until then. Even they already ruled on.
Well, yeah, the whether he can continue to do things doesn't mean that those things aren't unconstitutional. The only with the district you just need to admit that like in this situation, district court came to a determination for this set of plaintiffs, these First Amendment rights are violated, and that there's no.
So once again,
yeah,
I'll explain to you.
That's a fact.
Hold on, I'll explain to you one more time. So, we know that even the Supreme Court justice opinions of the past have been overturned because they weren't, or they were unconstitutional, the ruling to begin with, because this has happened over 100 times since the birth of our country. So that this is why even in the Federalist Papers it says that even Supreme Court justices can be corrupted as they are men.
How does a ruling get overturned?
The Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
What necessarily has to happen for a ruling to get overturned?
It needs to be challenged.
It needs to be challenged. So
in some form
if
or fashion,
so, okay. So if a ruling wasn't challenged in the 60 days that the determination can challenge it, then what is that ruling then? At least to those plaintiffs and the defendant.
Yeah. So let me ask you: is there a constitutional law that says it needs to be done in 60 days?
It's not constitutional law, but that's the.
There's not.
That's what
it's a supreme law.
Huh?
It's the supreme law of the land. So no state, nobody should make a law that goes against the Constitution. Is one of our,
Wait, who ordains and regulates the lower courts? Who makes them?
The judicial.
No, who makes lower courts?
Who makes them?
Yes.
So the executive, I guess, as far as
appointing
judges.
Congress does. Read the Constitution, please. Read.
I thought you were talking about appointing judges.
No, Congress makes them, and then Congress regulates what those lower courts' powers are and aren't. Right, and
they create the laws, sure.
So, okay, right. Those lower courts and those you have 60 days to appeal. Is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Administration
Once
do
again,
and appeal.
Once again, if it comes to the once again, no law should go against the Constitution itself. And so that is a gray area. I will actually admit that. As far as the whole 60 days thing, it's interesting. I'm going to have to study it more, and I'll be completely honest with you about the 60
They have
days.
a certain time to appeal.
And
You
I'm
don't
going
have
to now.
infinite time to appeal a case. You have 60 days. If you're a Trump
Huh?
administration, you have 60 days. If you don't do it, then the
Okay,
ruling is
so
binding to the plaintiffs at hand, and the determination is that, at least for the plaintiff's rights
so
have
the
been
people
violated.
who hold on, so the people who were they were deported, you're saying, or they were detained, or
They were
in the process
detained,
of being
and
deported,
they were detained in the process of being deported based on certain speech that was protected under
but
the
they weren't
Constitution.
deported. Okay, so they were detained. So technically, he didn't exactly violate. He abided by the court's ruling there, right? So technically, he went
No.
with the law. Did he abide by the court's ruling, or did he deport him anyways?
Well, the court hasn't given a remedy yet, so no.
The court hasn't given him a remedy yet. Oh, well, in that case, then he's not in violation.
Well, no. You understand? There's two different
Okay,
parts
so I'm
of the
waiting for
court.
an actual
There's
violation.
There's two different parts of the court case. The first part of the court case is going to
Okay.
be whether
Great.
are there violations, and the court came to determination yes, there are violations because they're detention
Great.
and reservation for speech.
Okay,
So
so yeah,
violations,
perfect.
and then the second part of the case is what are the remedies?
Absolutely, I totally get that. So at this point, he's not in violation of the Constitution.
No, he
itself.
is. They're just deciding what the remedies are.
Because when a president is an actual violation of the Constitution and goes against the court's rulings and so on, right? This would be call for impeachment.
Yeah, they should.
But he's not going against the courts in this matter, is he?
You're saying like is he like going against like what the courts are saying?
Once again, if the courts make a ruling and he is going to get, if like the Supreme Court, let's just say, makes a ruling, right? If not challenged and so on, or at the lower courts even, if he goes against those courts and does it anyways, yes, I could imagine that being a call for.
No, never what I said. I never said that he went against what the courts were saying. I just said the courts came to determination they did violations of the First Amendment.
Okay, so honestly, if you look at like all of our past presidents, there's many who have had very similar cases.
Now we're pivoting because the only point of the conversation is whether Trump hates the conversation. So we can talk about other presidents, but
I understand that. I understand that. I'm just pointing out the fact that in law like this, there are gray areas, and then there is complete neglect for the law. So no, I'm not. I'm not trying to spin it up. And I'm sorry if it sounds confusing to you. I'm not.
It's not confusing. I know exactly what you're doing.
Okay, no, but look what you're doing. You're out here
I'm trying to keep the conversation on track.
You're out here trying to say you're trying to prove a point that this man isn't fit to be president or something. Or what point are you trying to make if not for that?
The point I'm trying to prove right now is that Donald Trump hates the Constitution, and we're starting out by violations of the Constitution. Yes.
Wait a second. You just said hates the Constitution?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, Scratch! You're so disingenuous sometimes.
I'm not being disingenuous. I have arguments. Yeah, the first part of that argument is proving one that Donald Trump has violated the Constitution.
You're being disingenuous. You really are.
How?
Okay, so you're not accounting for the nuance of the situation, history, things that you should be very much accounting for the argument, but you're choosing not to look at that at all.
What nuances I'm not accounting for?
Well, I had brought up the nuance of this being a similar situation to many presidents before us. That
this is whataboutism. That's not a nuance. That's a completely different point.
Well, no, because the gray areas.
So I'm gonna ask you whether Donald Trump hates the Constitution. Does it have anything to do with whether other presidents have done violations?
I think you're the boring one at this point.
I'm asking. No, it's just a simple question. Whether Donald Trump hates the Constitution does it have anything to do with whether other presidents have done constitutional violations in the past?
Yeah, so Trump doesn't hate the Constitution in such a dramatic way to put things that is so disingenuous as I put before.
Okay. Whether I like or dislike peanut butter, does that have anything to do with whether you like or dislike peanut butter?
Now you just made a little child.
I'm asking, can you answer the question?
You just used a little kid analogy.
So whether I like or dislike peanut butter, does that have anything to do with whether you like or dislike peanut butter?
This is when you show your age.
I'm just asking a very simple question.
If you like or dislike peanut butter, quiet, dude.
So
come on.
When I ask you a question, right, a direct question about, okay, how does what Donald Trump thinks about the Constitution have anything to do with whether other presidents thought about the Constitution or whether they did violations, and you dance around the question for 2 minutes, and then I give you a simpler
You're
or
talking about
analogy, the
hating the
question, so that you can
Constitution, as
answer.
in, like,
That is the childish thing to do.
did
You're
Trump
being no.
voice his
Approach,
opinion that
approach,
that he
approach. It
hates
is
the Constitution
immature.
or something?
No, approach. It is immature for your age. When I ask
You're
you direct
being
questions, you
immature,
don't
bro.
answer them, and you
All
consistently
right,
do
ask
whataboutism
your
instead of addressing the point.
childish question again. Sorry, or your go ahead. Sorry,
It-
maybe it wasn't childish. I might have missed it. Go ahead.
So whether I like peanut butter, so anything
Oh,
you
goodness,
whether you like peanut butter.
Okay, so whether you like peanut butter, I'm gonna try to play your game here. This is ridiculous, but
So whether I dislike
okay.
or like peanut butter, so if anything to do with whether you like or dislike peanut butter.
Okay. See, that's where you and I differ on the subject matter here, right? So when it comes to law, especially constitutional law, right? Uh, we know it's not perfect, and sometimes there's gray areas. So
Chat,
this
notice
is
how that
why
wasn't
we
an answer to the
create.
question, by the
Well,
way.
hold on. I'm trying to make this point. This is why we create law dictionaries. We leave archived arguments on the congressional floor. We refer even to the Federalist Papers in some of these big decisions. So we definitely do our best to try to interpret the law, because that's what the judicial branches. That's what they're meant to do, is interpret the law. That's pretty much all they're meant to do. So I guess my point to this is that not every situation is going to be perfect, but whether a president, including Trump, make a decision to make an action that may seem to be constitutional in their own eyes, it doesn't mean that they hate the Constitution.
You think that's an answer to my question?
Dude, that's the best answer I can give you, buddy. I don't know what else to do for your peanut
Wow.
butter question.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Come on, dude.
you were trying to make a whataboutism. I recognize that that whataboutism was. I asked you a simple question about, okay, well, if whether I like or dislike peanut butter,
Calling me bad
whether
faith,
you dislike or
DJ,
dislike peanut butter,
really?
the obvious answer to that question, I'll just make the point, is no, it doesn't. If I have a conversation of whether I dislike or dislike peanut butter, we wouldn't then start talking about, well, other people like or dislike. No, we're talking about me and my motivations.
Absolutely.
So when I make a point about Donald Trump and constitutional violations to prove the wider point of Donald Trump hates the Constitution, and you bring up other violations of past presidents, that is disingenuous because you're not focusing on the subject, which is whether Trump hates it. So that's what I'm trying to make. So
what I'm trying to say is that when I said that it was childish, right? When I said, "Oh, your analogy is childish," I mean it because it doesn't give justice to the situation when we look at the fact that the law, as I said before, can be very vague in sometimes and leave open questions. So
okay, well, let's try. I'm gonna ask one. Hopefully, what was my analogy trying to prove?
Don't do that. Let me finish my point and then ask your question. Don't be rude.
What was my analogy trying to prove? Because I'm not going to let you rant.
Your analogy was trying to prove that because you use the analogy of someone hating peanut butter, you're saying that this is essentially the same thing, because you're saying that Trump, because he didn't do things, it means he hates peanut butter. He hates the Constitution. I'm just... This is where
you don't even understand my point. Oh my gosh. See, this is like, you can't call something childish that you don't even understand.
Well, it's childish to the point where how am I going to make sense of your point when they don't?
Because I literally explained it right before I asked that question. That's how.
Yeah, but you explained it still in a way that was very vague.
I explained a way that's very vague. It's open for I said you were doing a whataboutism and trying to talk about other violations of past presidents. And then I said, and originally that's whataboutism. I brought up the fact that if I was trying to determine, right, whether I liked or disliked peanut butter, there's nothing to do with whether you disliked or disliked peanut butter.
Yeah, but you're missing the point that what we're talking about, peanut butter,
and bring up other people. Just like,
but now we're in a situation where, like, is that peanut butter or is that just butter? It's like, yeah, see, it's you're making it. You're making it. I want to show that's the difference between the law.
Like, are you embarrassed?
Objectively is something that is objectively peanut butter.
Approach,
right? Is different than saying, is this, like, what type of peanut butter is this? Like,
when you come up on a panel, approach me up on a panel, and you don't listen to what I'm saying, and you don't know the points I'm making after explaining them multiple times, right?
Really,
and I ask you questions, and you dance around to every single one I ask. Do you feel embarrassed at all?
Dude. This is not a dance. This is me trying to make sense of your dumb analogy.
Yeah, it's more of a jive. Okay, I agree.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to say that I think that you're missing the point. Be that when it comes to law, when there is vagueness, when there is a room for interpretation or loopholes that gray areas rather, um,
Oof.
that sometimes things can get a little sticky
Yeah.
and hard to understand. Now, in these cases, right, something that is very easily understood is that if the courts rule on a particular thing under certain rules, if those are violated, that's when you can say that someone hates the Constitution. But that's not the case here. So
Yes,
now
that's what
I'm
happened. The court
arguing
ruled
that
that
this
he
isn't
violated
this
the
isn't a
Constitution.
pure
True.
this is what I'm arguing is that you cannot say that Trump hates peanut butter at this point.
Okay, so that wasn't the analogy, and you don't still understand. But I'm gonna move on since I don't really feel like arguing
So
about like this
glad. I
specific
don't
point
think
all day.
anybody understands.
So I'm gonna
Somebody,
okay. So let's try
give us some.
let's try and get down to this.
Invite
So
someone
do
up to
we?
give some a
So do
better
we?
explanation of your
So
analogy.
approach.
Then
I'm not gonna explain it because you just dance around any time. So approach.
that's not
Do you
dancing.
disagree?
I'm just trying to make sense.
So approach. Approach. Calm
Yes,
down.
sir.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm good.
Do you agree with me that the courts in that the right Massachusetts District Court, Judge William Young, right, in District of Massachusetts, in AUP v. Marco Rubio, made a ruling that is now binding because there's no ability for Trump administration to appeal this to a higher court because that period has passed. That in that ruling was that Donald Trump's administration violated the First Amendment rights of these immigrants.
Do I hold on? Do I think that it is that Trump should abide by the court's rulings in this case?
No, that's not what I asked. I asked, do you
I'm sorry,
agree with me
that's
that
why
this
I
ruling that Donald
apologize.
Trump did violate the constitutional rights of these immigrants is binding? Yes or no?
I don't think that it is binding in that matter because if they were detained and then eventually let go, then no.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Are there any other actions that the Trump administration can currently use to dispute the ruling that that court made?
Other than a revolution against a court that is insurrectionist, no.
No. Okay, so that is a binding ruling, and the ruling is that Donald Trump violated the First Amendment rights of these immigrants. We agree then?
Oh, well,
yes or no?
Not exactly. Well, fine. If you want to put it that way, it was not intentionally then, so he doesn't hate the Constitution.
I think it very much was intentional.
No,
so
it wasn't.
Let's go over some let's go over some very basic things.
Well,
right?
hold on, wait. Before
do we? No. We're gonna go over
that.
this. We need to get down on this because you're gonna say it's like vague and there's interpretation. So first of all, do we believe that immigrants have any kind of First Amendment rights?
Yes.
So legal immigrants have any? Okay. So we agree on that. So
Yes.
If I was to ask this question, if the Trump administration tried to deport somebody solely on the basis of if they were Jewish, or that they were Jewish, that would obviously be an unconstitutional deportation.
Well, if it's based off just because they're Jewish,
yes.
but there's no
just because they're Jewish.
Well, if there's no threat or national security risk, then I would suppose there is. However, I would remind you of the Federalist Papers 23, where Hamilton, he talks about not letting, the dangers that face a nation are infinite or are many, however he puts it, and that let not the constituted shackles, obstruct the executive from these national security risks. So
let's make this interesting, right? So if the Secretary of State determined that Jewish people, right, were a national security risk, and then started deporting Jewish immigrants based on them being Jewish, because they determined that just being Jewish is a national security risk in itself, is that an unconstitutional deportation?
Not until the courts rule that it is. So if the courts rule, because what will happen, the process of this is the courts will assess whatever intelligentsia the executive has to show that it's a national security risk, and this is why our founders
you'd agree? Okay. I'm not asking the process for like what the courts would take for when they would then determine like if it's a illegal or illegal deportation. I'm saying from like your understanding of the Constitution, you'd agree with me that is a illegal or unconstitutional deportation.
Not until the courts rule on it.
So until the courts rule on something, you can't make any determination about the Constitution. Is that what you're saying?
Correct? Well, it's like I said, some things are are unclear sometimes, even in the
So
Constitution.
I
For
just want to be
instance,
clear. What you just said, it seems that you just said that until the courts make a ruling on something, you can't or cannot say whether that thing is unconstitutional or not. Correct?
well, it depends. So once again, I'd mentioned that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
Holy
I had
hedge.
mentioned that even Supreme Court justices can be corrupted as they are men. I'd mentioned that even Supreme Court justices have had opinions about
You're
the
not answering the
Constitution that
question. You're
were
not answering.
inaccurate.
This has nothing to do with the question I asked.
This is
Okay.
why I say there's
So
nuance, but
no,
you're not. You're
there
skipping
wasn't.
that
You didn't
point.
add anything to the question I asked, right? You just wanted some ramble about Supreme Court justices. I asked because what seemingly what
I'm
you're
not
saying.
rambling.
No,
I'm trying to paint a
you
picture of
are
the
rambling, right?
nuance.
So you're not actually answering the question.
Okay,
What the question I asked was, it seemingly you're saying, and I can't make a determination on if something is unconstitutional or not until the courts
not in every
come
matter.
in
It's sometimes it's a little
until
more
the courts come
difficult.
in and make a determination on whether that thing is unconstitutional. Correct?
I would argue in some cases more than others. Yeah.
Okay. Even though I have heard, and this is gonna, if we're talking about hypocrisy, right? You in the past have literally said that you disagreed with certain court rulings that have been made, and you said that
Yes.
those are unconstitutional or not. So so you just said that you
Yeah.
can't make a determination until the courts do, even though you're admitting now
Well,
that in the past you've made a
yeah.
determination
Well,
without the
some
courts.
cases are
So
clearer
so
than
I'm gonna
others.
ask you to,
Because,
so I know you can answer the question, so I'm gonna ask you it again because that was
sure.
a bullshit answer, right? So right,
It's not a bullshit answer.
if the
You didn't let me explain that.
Secretary of State, right, determines that Jewish people, right, just being Jewish is a national security risk and starts deporting people just because they're Jewish, it's an unconstitutional deportation.
Are they citizens?
No, legal immigrants.
No. Then no.
No. Okay. I'm gonna ask the
Because
question. Why?
it's at their discretion, right? So uh, it's at their discretion to if someone is deemed a national security risk, right?
Mhm.
Now once again, now the courts
At their
themselves
discretion
can
under
step
what?
in. His discretion if he feels that these people are a
Like,
national
what is
security
permitting
risk.
him to do that? What law?
Well, in the case of asylum, I gave you 1158. You can also look into 1033, I believe,
Okay,
8
so you're saying
USC
under the
1033.
INA, the president has broad discretion, and the Secretary of State has broad discretion of who he deems to be national security risks and who he can deport. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. What does does the Constitution trump the INA?
Does the Constitution what? Sorry.
Yes. Is the Constitution
I was-
so? If the INA, for instance, or
Uh,
if the INA, right?
Yeah.
We would
Uh-huh.
agree that the INA is a lesser law to the Constitution, whereas if the INA were to contradict the Constitution would overrule the INA.
Well, this is exactly why I brought up Hamilton. Why I brought up the Federalist Papers. Okay,
That was a yes or no answer.
so in these matters, right? So I said that the dangers that face the nation are many or infinite. However, I forget how he puts it. One of those two, but this is why our founders, it wasn't just someone later on, our founders themselves, who I think had the best understanding of the Constitution, created the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, so they created this because, once again, the dangers that face the nation are many. And in order to give
the Constitution trump the INA?
Anything and everything trumps the Constitution itself if it means the falling of our republic.
I'm asking legally. I'm not asking for your sort of moral opinion.
Legally. According
Does
to
the
Hamilton.
Constitution trump the INA?
Did you not hear what I said?
What?
So the only reason to invoke the INA, right, is a matter of the demise of our republic.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
The people are deported all the time under the INA. What are you talking about?
No, they're not.
What is the INA?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the Alien Enemies Act.
No, I said
didn't hear
INA.
you out. I'm sorry. I apologize. The whole time I was hearing Alien Enemies Act in my head.
That's an AEA.
So no. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So does the Constitution trump the INA?
No.
No.
I mean,
so
yes, rather. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. So if the discretion that the Secretary of State has to deport these people based on national security risk is under the INA, but the Constitution trumps the INA, and these people are making appeals based, right? And we know, right, under the First Amendment, under the Constitution, right, people have the right to practice religion, right, including people who are Jewish, then we'd say that deportation or that even the detention to try to deport them on that basis would be unconstitutional. Correct?
Sorry, I got a call. My bad. It was my sis, so I didn't want to leave her. She called me twice. So, okay. So once again, in this case, if the Secretary of State deems someone a national security risk, right? They are deported. Now, if it gets challenged, there was a process for this, right? So it could be challenged. Now, the courts can step in and say, hold on a second. We don't trust the situation. If it's never challenged, it's never challenged. But the courts step in, they can absolutely challenge it. God damn it. Sorry, I got a call. I'll call him back. This is fun.
I'm not asking you to describe
There's a
the
mass
process
shooting
by
at
which the
Brown?
courts intervene. I'm just you
What's
already
the mass shooting at Brown?
approach. You already agreed, right? Supreme Court, not Supreme Court. The Constitution trumps the INA, right? If the Secretary of State's discretion to try and deport someone using national security interest would violate their constitutional rights, then the Constitution would trump whatever discretion that the Secretary of State had. And one of the protected things in the Constitution is to practice religion. So therefore, the Secretary of State trying to deport somebody solely on the basis of them being Jewish would be unconstitutional.
Well, sure, right? But here's the thing: you missed the part where I said, because you were repeating what I said, but you skipped over the fact when I said if the courts don't step in, right, then you can still consider it unconstitutional, right? But if they don't step in, there's no way to kind of prove that, right? So even under 1033, it can be under
the court stepped in under AUP v. Marco
classified
Rubio,
information,
and you already know this. So
hold on, buddy. Even under 1033 can be under classified information. So my point is that if the courts don't step in, right, then at this point, even if you want to say that they're going against the Constitution, you'd have to prove that, right?
The court stepped in and they proved it, and then they made a ruling. So we don't. You already agree that ruling binding. So we don't even need. This is a useless point. You already like agreed.
In this case, the courts are calling it unconstitutional, right? Now, once again, until they rule on the Alien Enemies Act, I guess.
I'm not talking about the Alien Enemies Act.
Okay, so wait a second. Hold on. Because I want to give you the right answer here, but I'm not sure I have the exact right answer for you. But I'm also not giving you a W on the fact that they're unallowed to do this, right?
It's like most weasel, like you.
No, because first off, you know you're not a lawyer.
It's
right?
literally like debating politicians.
I'm not a lawyer myself, so I'm not going to act like I have all the answers here, right?
You're on. It's unironically like
Maud was down there. She wants to
every single question comes with like infinite amounts of statements.
Is Maud still in the
irrelevant,
chat?
Like,
well, maybe she can clear this up for us.
No, I'm not letting anybody else up. It's a 1v1.
Oh, you don't be scared. We have someone who might have a better opinion to help out with this. Aren't you
right
looking search for the truth?
Cool.
Isn't that what you want? The truth here?
So, okay.
Why don't you just let Maud join the conversation, and then maybe she can help clear this up for us.
I'm glad.
This is a tough one.
So we already understand, right? That
you don't want that. You're so scared.
Huh?
Stop being a little bitch about it.
Maud can come up right after you.
Why not let her join the conversation? This is great because I can tell you
left.
don't
She's not
know
even here
100%,
anymore.
and I don't know 100%. Maybe she can reflect a little light on it. What's wrong with that?
Maud's not even here anymore.
Nothing wrong with that, dude. When we both are in search for the truth, this is a good thing to have maybe someone who can shed a little light.
First, can't just admit he's racist. I don't know if racist. Maybe he's xenophobic. He might not. Again, I don't know.
Well, my pronouns are they gone for sure.
Anyways, moving on. So, people here like Ramesa Ozturk, who wrote like an op-ed criticizing Israel. That speech is pretty obviously putting on the First Amendment. You can criticize other foreign states.
Who?
Ramesa Ozturk. She wrote an op-ed criticizing her school's involvement with Israel. Right, that's pretty explicit.
Didn't she have involvement?
No, that's the only reason that the DOJ cited. That's the only reason the DOJ cited to try and deport her was that specific op-ed that she wrote. That's pretty explicit.
No, I thought she had some sort of affiliation.
No, that's the only thing that they cited to try and deport her.
That's the only thing.
It's the only thing.
I haven't looked at the case, but I'm curious.
It's literally cited in AUP v. Marco Rubio. It's like the prominent example, right? To try and deport her. It's pretty explicitly speech offended the First Amendment. Aunt Marouche still tried to do that. Right? I think it's pretty explicitly like bad faith interpretations of the Constitution, or not even interpretations, just like explicit violations, and then to try and deport these people. And on top of that, what the administration in the AUP v. Marco Rubio was determining to be national security interests, or like people being anti-Semitic, was literally biases towards Israel. So if a student was or professor being biased towards Israel, they would consider that enough to try and deport them. So
That was
pretty.
If that was the case, then I personally disagree with that too. I guess.
Okay, that's pretty bad faith. Pretty bad faith interpretations.
I could agree with that if someone is
Okay.
biased.
On top of that, right?
But I thought there was some type of affiliation. Are you sure there was no like group that she was affiliated with at all?
She might have been affiliated with somebody. I don't know, but that's not what they decided to try and deport her. So it's really relevant. So it's really relevant to the subject.
The reason I say this to you, bud, the reason I ask that is because under the way that we define a T group, or someone is deemed a terrorist organization under the War on Terrorism Act of 1992. You actually affiliates themselves
Actually, I just
are deemed national security risks.
No,
so you don't have to be part of the actual organization. You can be an affiliate as well.
Okay, so the problem right here is that, right, what, like, and I should have just said no, she's not affiliated, but it's literally relevant because they didn't cite affiliation with like T to try and deport her. They only cited the op-ed. So even if she was, they still tried to deport her solely on the basis of solely on the basis of speech. So it literally doesn't. So it literally does not matter because it only matters what they try and cite to deport her. No, that's just a relevant point to make. So okay, so I think we got the constitutional violations thing out of the way, so we can like move on to like quotes Donald Trump has said. So Donald Trump in the past has said like things like he saves his he who saves his country.
Your whole argument was that he hates the Constitution. No. Your argument was that he hates the Constitution, and so whether someone is in violation or in blatant violation make a complete difference on hating the Constitution. You want me to repeat that so you can understand and read?
Whether somebody's in violation or blatant violation, is that what you said?
No, yeah. So in violation, right, or in blatant violation, will make a difference between your determining if someone hates the Constitution.
Yeah, it's a pretty blatant violation. Difference. Even you were able to come to determination, like, and say, like, yeah, it's pretty disagreeable. It's pretty obvious.
Meaning they knew that they were in violation.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we continue to prove that?
You think he knew that they were in violation?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think when somebody
I would argue that they.
I think somebody, right? Who says he saves a country breaks the law. I think somebody who said that like the amount of voter fraud that happened during the election constitutes like the Constitution being overturned. I think somebody who said that
the amount of voter fraud.
Huh?
The amount of voter fraud. So you realize there was voter fraud.
I'm giving you quotes. I'm giving you quotes now. Right?
So hold on. Let me just say this. Please allow me to say this one part. So there's still people today that they are finding were doing fraud during the election, right? And do you think at all, can you give any credence to the possibility that there was more fraud than has even been caught at this point? Do you think that I'm not saying
whether Donald Trump, whether there's voter fraud or they're finding more has nothing to do with whether Donald Trump said that?
No, you're missing
overturning the conversation because of the voter fraud in 2020.
I'm just addressing it.
The point I brought up was quotes that Donald Trump was made like that were like targeting the Constitution and showing his dislike of it, right? That was the point I was making.
Then your point is a bad point. It doesn't correlate because once again, I said at this point that there was voter fraud, right?
I'm talking about a tweet. I'm talking about a tweet he made where he said the voter fraud during the election was enough to overturn the Constitution. And the tweets
hold on.
Can I finish?
Hold on.
Can I finish?
Hold on. Go ahead.
Right? And the tweets that he made saying that he saves a country breaks the law, and tweets he made about just blatantly deporting anybody who protested, who was an immigrant here on college campuses.
But going back to your point,
that was actually not a tweet. That was a quote made to
Did those correlate?
Sponsors. Huh?
No, you were saying that Trump said there was enough fraud to overturn the election. Now,
No, to overturn the Constitution, like get rid of it.
No. What? I thought we
Yes.
said the election. That was the
No,
whole
Constitution.
to overturn the Constitution.
Yes, I'll get the quote.
No, it's in the constitutional right for the president, one, to challenge an election, two, to voice his opinion on what he thinks.
Not the quote I'm talking about. Quote. I'm not talking about what he can and can't do.
Then you're speak clearly or something, then, bro. Because you speak kind of fast. Maybe I don't know if that's why I'm.
A massive fraud of this type, magnitudes, and allows for termination of all rules, regulations, articles, even those found in the Constitution. I grew up others did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections.
Okay, so Trump is saying his opinion. Oh, say it again. We'll repeat that again. No, what?
A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, articles, even those found in the Constitution.
Oh yeah, it's he's talking about the invoking, what's it called, the what's it called? I'm brain farting right now. It's not exactly what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe I'm just had a safety meeting now. I can't remember. When you declare, come on, buddy, help me out. No, you don't want to help me out? All right, fine. Give me a second. Where you call for the suspending of the Constitution. I'm just brain farting. You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about.
It's like talking to the slimiest person I've ever met.
You're gonna go to laws.
Holy
Now
shit!
you're going to go to schools?
Like the slimiest person I've ever had to talk to.
Never mind. Hold on. Go over to religious schools. I thought you would have been able to. Go to schools, religious schools. Why does it say that you can't?
Russia must not have enacted any law, any of total separation